It's not the government, the church, or even our schools. The home is the actual foundation of all societies, and it is steadily deteriorating. Do you realize how valuable your home is? Are you willing to do the homework required to be an influencer? A home influencer. Welcome to Homework with Kim. I'm Kimona Farkison, and together we take a candid look at our homes and the work we need to do within its four walls and in our families in order to fulfill our God-given assignments. Just look around, you see it. We have some homework to do, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Homework with Kim. Thank you so much for joining me. Here we turn our attention to our homes and the homework we need to do to make sure that at the end of a long, hard day, when our heads hit the pillow, we can truly declare home sweet home. As you heard in the intro, my name is Kimona, but please just call me Kim. I am a 31-year-old Jamaican woman, married to one man, my dear husband, Kimoy, and together we have a 4-year-old daughter, Phoebe, that is as of, June 2022. Let's see what the future holds. But if you ask me to tell you about Kim, there's not a whole lot I can say because I lead a pretty simple life. My life is simple, but certainly not simplistic. I am a homeschool mom by choice. This decision has nothing to do with the pandemic or anything else, but it was one that preceded Phoebe's birth. And I know some people may be saying, how did you convince your husband to agree to your staying home and homeschooling? We will hopefully get into that at another time. You also may be wondering why this millennial Jamaican mother that leads such a simple life is starting this podcast about homework. Is she confused? Does she think that she's at homeschool? What is happening here? As if, you don't have enough work to worry about, right? Keeping your job, keeping the lights on. And of course, that work involved in calculating how much liters of gas we need to put in our tanks at minimum to get to our destination back home before the gas light starts blinking. Or maybe that's just me. Okay, moving on. I mean, life is hard enough. Life is already work. Without us even trying, life is difficult, I know. Not to mention this added work now of scrolling through anti-social media. I mean, social, air quotes, media. And then having to deal with the work involved after I've worked, scrolling for so long. The work involved in getting my emotions back on track because I now realize everyone's life, all my 700 and odd friends on Facebook, everybody's life is 1,000% better than mine. That's a lot of emotional work. I mean, take it from a woman who hears the words mama, mommy, mom, more than she hears a moment of silence. A woman who on the average day lives the same day every day. A woman who after a long repetitive day of doing mundane tasks such as cooking and washing dishes and reading the same children's stories over and over begins to question herself. Then at this me really go to school for? And when my husband gets home and asks, Kim, how was your day? I can sometimes only muster the strength to mumble, it was hard. And so this is Kim talking to you. that woman that I just described. And I decided that I want to share my journey, my realizations. And this is my why for starting the podcast. The foundation of our nation is the family by God's design. When we look at what is happening in Jamaica and across the world, you see that our nations are in trouble. Our nation is in trouble. And many people blame the government. We blame the economy. We're like, oh, people need jobs. People are frustrated because, life is so hard. That's why there's so much murder and we can't resolve conflicts and we're angry with each other. I beg to differ. I believe it is because the homes are so broken in so many ways. That is why we find ourselves where we are. And so there is work to be done at home. I'm not talking about painting your walls. I'm not talking about screwing in your light bulbs. Differentiating between homework and housework. Two of them go hand in hand sometime, but what I'm focusing on is not housework on this podcast per se. I'm talking about the kind of work that involves or responding to how God has called us to live. We're talking about the difficulties we're having and how we want to be better, how we want to do better. Because at this point, I don't care where you are in the world. If you're a Jamaican, if you're in the US, it really is not relevant at this point in terms of when we look and see the state of our country, the state of our nation, right? If you live in a pineapple under the sea, you will see as well that we're in trouble. The society is in serious trouble. There are cracks in the foundations of the home, right? And we are not doing the homework. We're doing all sorts of different work. In fact, and I'm guilty of it, you think of how you make your decisions, like your default. Or default, well, my default, let me speak for myself, is to prioritize. Except if I am intentional about it, I will end up prioritizing everything else over my home and family. Me, same one, struggle with prioritizing my home, except if I am intentional. And that is why I come back to the concept of work. You don't just wake up and it happens. We have to be prepared to work at it. I will sign up to work in several different capacities. But when it comes to the work at home, we'll make it pile up. When you have clothes for wash, and remember, I can only speak based on my experience, right? I'm not judging anybody because, I'm letting it all out, right? When you have clothes to wash and you put it and it pile up and it pile up and it pile up and it pile up and it pile up, I mean, the clothes are still there to wash at the end of the day. No matter how long you leave them there, they're still there. So we can't just ignore our home responsibilities. And remember, homework, I'm not talking about simply sweeping our floors and taking out the garbage. That's not what I'm focusing on. I am saying within the relationships in our family, the planning that goes into home life requires work. It is hard work, but it is rewarding work. And that is a journey I want us to go on together. Why is she speaking as though this is urgent? This has very little to do with me. I mean, I'm in my comfortable situation and, I'm in my 9 to 5 or whatever situation I'm in. I'm quite comfortable. I mean, my family is, all good and well. There's a quote that says, one generation plants the tree and another generation gets the shade. We are looking at a society where we just are scorching at the sun, because there has been a consistent period of time where it looked like no tree wasn't being planted. And so we are watching a society get further and further into depravity. We cannot let our nation go down the drain, and you may say, I am not involved in lawmaking. What can you do? What can I do? There's a quote that says, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. Look around you. Look at your relationships. What kind of work can you do starting now to mend some little broken parts? We're not taking everything on one time, but we're looking at the fact that if the home is the foundation, nobody except if they are a fool is going to start building on a shaky foundation, on land that has not been properly surveyed and treated and take all the right steps. I don't know about architecture and that stuff, but I can put two and two together. You want to make sure that what you're building on is sustainable, because whatever you're building, that if the foundation is not sure, it will crumble. It is only a matter of time. We have to start where we are. That is where we will center our attention. And it is hard. It is very hard. My husband will tell you it is hard. When we look at what we need to do to get the results that we want to get, we say, this is hard. But we believe that based on what God promises, it is worth it. Thank you so much for joining me for the very first episode of Homework with Kim. I am honored that you stayed from the beginning to the end, and it's really just an introductory episode, and I hope to share many more with you. I invite you to follow me on Instagram at Skymona, that's SKYMONA. So until we meet again, just look around, you see it. We have some homework to do. So let's get started.